Projjal, great to
Yes.
meet you. Thanks for taking some time. Now, you're Sustainability Director for the largest transport network in the Western world. Can you tell me, we're at a Smart City conference, how Smart City plays into your role?
Sure, Mike. Thanks for having me and having me here and speaking with me. It actually is. There's an incredible amount of overlap between smart cities and smart mobility, especially in the United States, where mobility for the largest portion of the country means single occupancy vehicles, means people driving one car for their day-to-day activities over long distances. That is not sustainable. It is not sustainable for the planet. It is not sustainable for the people. It contributes to, we are, as animals, we're supposed to walk. That's why we have feet. And there's not a lot of that happens when you start driving. Cars, so to speak, have driven feet out of the transportation business. And a good public transportation network kind of brings it back to where it ought to be. People walk a lot more, and as such, that contributes to better health for the community. They get around from A to B using much less energy and creating much less environmental damage than if they were driving a car all by themselves. This cannot be overstated. In fact, this is one of the larger unrecognized and uncompensated goods, if you will, that public transportation produces, which is it produces very environment-friendly communities, households, people, and I think smart mobility and smart cities. You cannot have a smart city without smart mobility. If you are caught in a 9-hour-long jam, or if billions of dollars go up in smoke because cars are idling one behind the other, that is not smart. So it really good public transportation has to be the foundation of a smart city.
And where does the impetus for these initiatives come from?
Okay, that's an interesting question because I think that in my case, at least personally, it has evolved over time. I think I was hired, like many sustainability directors of various organizations, with an inward focus to kind of see, could we be, from little things like could we be purchasing our printer paper more efficiently, to perhaps could the trains be run with less electricity. And I have done a fair bit of work in fact, in those two particular areas, but more areas like that, essentially tried to look at our own operations and see how we can minimize our footprint. But over time, what I have found the greatest amount of joy in is to look at what I was alluding to earlier, which is how good public transportation systems and networks end up creating good green communities and healthy people, and whether you can put a value to that. Because other industries have managed to do this. You can walk into a Honda showroom and buy a Civic, one that is hybrid and one that is not. They have the same steering wheel, the same body, the same upholstery, but the hybrid one costs more. And they have decoupled the greenness of the car and the car itself, and you are willing to pay a premium because you save money on gas, or you really want to do something good by the world. But we in public transportation have not managed to assign a value to the greenness of the ride. And if we were able to do this, this would be an additional resource, which is much required in legacy systems such as New York and London, who are struggling to keep things up without increasing fares or have had to increase fares. This would also be useful in spreading public transportation in places where there isn't none. So recognizing the value. So in some ways, an outward-looking role is something that I have come to like very much. It's not the major definition of my role. It's kind of, I would say, even amounts of looking in and looking out. But I have ended up defining my role, I think, a little bit differently to what I was initially hired for.
And the visit to Yinchuan, have you found it useful?
I think the conference thus far has been very good. So I've seen some great presentations, and I certainly want to go back and look at the PDFs or whatever the material that will be circulated. And I know it sounds a little geeky, but there are many good ideas there that I think I can go back and use. I have been to China in the past. But this is a very different part of China, and so that I think also has been exciting for me to come and see a very different part of China. So yes, overall I think the visit to Yinchuan has been somewhat fraught in my instance with bad weather and so on. But overall, it's been very rewarding.
Okay, fantastic. And thanks again for joining us here.